Hey everyone, Tom Bowman here, and this is Strategic Investor Insights. And for today's video, I want to continue on the topic of concentrated stock, but talk more specifically about using options to hedge your concentrated stock position. So the natural starting point is to talk about what exactly is an option or a stock option. An option is a contract that gives the buyer the right but not the obligation to buy or sell that particular security at a given future date in time at a specific price. The key part of this definition to keep in mind is there is no obligation to purchase or sell the security at the future date. Now, because there is a length of time until this option contract can be exercised, the buyer of the contract pays what's called a premium. This premium is a sum of money for that option or that right to purchase or sell the security in the future. The final piece of this definition that I want to talk about is the difference between an American-style option settlement and European-style option settlement. The key reason this is important is American-style options can be exercised at any time during the period. For instance, if I purchase an American-style option that has an expiration date for a year from now, and I choose to exercise that option today, I have that ability. With a European-style option settlement, I have to wait until expiration to exercise my option. As many of you know, stock prices can move up and down considerably throughout the year. So a European-style option restricts the ability to exercise that option during the period. Okay, so with the definition squared away, I keep saying the option to buy or sell. Well, let's dive into that. If I want the option to buy a security in the future, I would buy what's called a call option. So for instance, if I have a stock that's trading at 100 today, and keep in mind this example is purely hypothetical for educational purposes, I'm not taking this from any particular stock specifically. If that stock is trading at $100 today, and I want the ability to purchase that stock at, let's say, $105 1 year from now, I could buy a call option. I might pay $2, $3, maybe $4, $5 in premium for the ability to buy that stock at 105 in the future. If that stock goes down to 90 a year from now, I paid the $2, $3, $4, whatever dollar amount my premium was, and that is what I am out on that stock. That's my loss. However, if that stock were to go to, say, 120, I would have the ability to buy that stock at 105. That is currently trading at 120. So I'd have a $15 gain minus whatever premium I paid for that at the beginning. Now keep in mind, if I'm the buyer, I get that option to buy. However, on the other side of that transaction is a seller. So if I sell that option to someone else and I have an American-style option, there is a chance I could have to sell my stock at 105 within the year-long period that that option contract is active. If I do a European style, I would not have to sell my stock until the end of that period. So next, let's talk about the put option. The call option was the right to buy a security in the future. The put option, conversely, is the right to sell the stock in the future. So for instance, with the same $100 stock, I might buy a put option to sell that stock at 95 1 year from now. I would pay a few dollars in premium for that right to sell the stock at 95. If the stock drops to $80, I get to sell that stock at $95, and I've made money by purchasing that put option. However, on the flip side, if that stock does go to 120, like we had talked about in the previous example, I would have paid that premium and not received any benefit from that put option. It would expire worthless. So just like a call option, there has to be a seller on the other side, meaning if I sell the put option at 95, I will have to buy that stock at $95 if it were to fall below that 95 mark at the end of the period. However, if I sell that put option and the stock price increases to 120, I would receive the premium and there would be no obligation to purchase that security. So now that we've covered the basics of stock options, and I understand these are complicated topics and it's not expected that you'll understand exactly the dynamics all just from this video, But I want to talk a little bit more about some strategies that you can take with your concentrated stock position. The first strategy I want to talk about is using puts to hedge your position. Buying a put option essentially creates a floor on your losses. So let's go back to that previous example. If I have a stock, let's say I have a significant portion of my wealth in this stock that we talked about at $100. If I buy a put option at 95 a year out, that means that my max loss will be the distance between 100 and 95. I will lose $5 on this stock. Now keep in mind a common theme with these option strategies, and the reason we talked about European options, is the goal here is to not sell that stock. So I buy the option at $95. Let's say the stock falls to $80 in the future. It is very likely that I will want to sell my put option prior to having any expiration in order to be able to capture the gain of that put. As we get closer to expiration, that put should be close to the difference between the strike price, meaning the $95, and the current market price, which in this case we're saying is $80. Now, for me to realize the full distance, I would have to wait until expiration and sell the stock. However, if I want to avoid selling the stock for capital gains, I may just take advantage of the fact that I bought a put, let's say at $3, and it has grown to $15 or close to it. And that will give me cash to supplement the fact that my stock is now worth $80. Now keep in mind, if the stock continues to rise, I will have just paid $3-4, meaning the first $3-4 of gains on that stock, I really don't participate in because I'm just making back what I paid for that put protection. So in this case, I do have to pay some money in order to hedge that position. One of the most common strategies using options, and I talked about it in the last video, is what's called a costless collar. So we've established this floor for the option. The other side to this costless collar is selling a call. So remember, buying a call gives you the right to buy the stock in the future. Selling a call would mean that I have to sell that stock in the future at a price, for instance, let's say 105, even if that stock were trading for, say, 120. Now again, using a European style option, I don't have the risk that someone could exercise that option early. However, I also don't want to sell the stock. I would likely want to buy that call back at the 115 mark. So let's say it's trading for about $10. I might sell it for $3. I might buy it back for $10. In this case, I would rather do that than be forced to sell that stock and create the capital gain. Now keep in mind, it's extremely important to consult a CPA and a financial professional when using a costless collar, especially for concentrated stock positions, because you want to avoid what's called a constructive sale. The distance between your floor and the put and the cap, or selling your call, has to be far enough apart that you are materially participating in the stock movement and that the IRS does not consider that a constructive sale. So in this example where I bought a put at 95 and sold a call at 105, that may or may not be too tight a spread of just $10. I may have to, and more commonly, buy that put at closer to $85 or $80 and sell that call at $115 to $125. So I just widen that spread. The purpose of this video is to give you examples of strategies. The actual implementation, I highly recommend talking to both your CPA and your financial professional who may help you employ some of these strategies. The final strategy I want to talk about here is really an enhancement to the selling strategy, where I sell periodically some of my stock and reallocate into a more diversified portfolio, using often what's called a capital gains budget. But that strategy is selling covered calls. Now, the covered portion of that is the fact that I own the stock. In this case, I have a significant portion of my wealth in that stock. And what I may choose to do is sell a call, and when I sell that call, I receive a premium. However, I'm also saying I'm willing to sell that stock, let's use the 105 example, at 105 in the future. So in this case, I'm willing to sell it $5 above where the price is today. I receive $2 to $3, $4 in premium, depending on how far out I go for time. And if the stock goes higher, I have to sell those shares, which I'm okay with because my capital gains budget allows it. If the stock goes lower, I've buffered some of that downside with the premium I received from the covered call. So a lot of times people will use a covered call strategy in order to get out of a position and sell that stock in lieu of just periodically selling the stock. Both just selling the stock and selling covered calls can be an effective strategy. What it really comes down to is how much you're willing to take the risk that the stock were to fall. For instance, if I just sell the stock outright, that portion of funds can't go down if the stock falls significantly. However, with a covered call, being willing to wait a year, for instance, to sell the stock for 105, I do still have that entire position that I was willing to sell at risk of going down with the rest of my position. So while this can be an effective strategy, it's often a preferred strategy if there's desire to capture upside in the stock and there's risk tolerance to take on a potential downturn. So again, I want to reiterate that these are very complicated strategies. The goal of this video is to help you better understand options and how to use them to hedge your position. I strongly recommend talking to a CPA or your tax advisor before taking on any of these strategies, as well as connecting with a financial professional who has a lot of experience in this area. Feel free to reach out to me if you have any further questions on the topic. I hope this gives you a better idea of some options that you have when thinking about hedging the risk associated with your concentrated stock position.